What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Today, I want to talk about the subject of music and how we represent ourselves on in the media, especially when we have the power to disseminate how we want to be, displayed, for the world to see. But I have like two competing, ideas on this. So the way I'm going to do this video is I'm just going to go ahead and speak both opinions, right? That way I can cover both bases that's in my head. Because, sometimes you can have complex thoughts about one or two issues and you have to ride the fence. So I'm going to make both arguments. And so my first argument about, especially what India Arie said, how the black community, we have so much good music. We create so much good, wholesome, even God-fearing music, ancestral-fearing music. We make good family music. We make good inspirational music. We make all kinds of music that moves the souls of humanity, right? That helps humanity lift themselves out from oppression. That helps humanity find the confidence to fight against and rage against the machines that oppress them. But at the same time, it just seems like we always go towards, especially when it comes to accumulating money, we always go toward the lower elements of our societies when we entertain ourselves. And how is it that a song that promotes scamming, cultural destruction, how does that song become the song of the year? How is that reflecting, African American culture, and how is that reflecting anything good of African American culture? And I think it's a case of black people taking the easy route, knowing that there is a market out there that still consumes and will forever consume black degenerate content. And I feel like some black creators, especially young ones who's looking to make it rich, and they want to be rich and successful while also doing the least amount of critical thinking and work possible, they found the easiest route to their destination, and they pick the trashiest music to disseminate to their people, and they get rewarded for it, right? I think the system itself is setting us up, but at the same thing, I think we as a people are not representing ourselves properly, when given the opportunity to do so. But then again, man, I also believe that we need to ease up on these young children and these young adults on how they like to express themselves. I mean, we can't be hypocrites. It's always that generation, right? When they get into their mid 30s or 40s, 50s, after they've already done their dirt, after they've already completed the cycle of their generation's music, where they express the exact same sentiment in a different way, we tend to get holier than thou. And then we want to hold the youth, the children, who are just coming up in their era of music, we want to hold them to a standard in which we never held ourselves. In my generation, we had our own set of degenerate music that even our parents thought was trash. And if you look at history, every era of change in music, the previous generation have always looked at that music as trash, as lowbrow, as a low vibrational, as perpetuating the lowest portions of the black community. Every single musical era, no matter what that music was jazz, whether it ragtime, whether it was rhythm and blues, whether it was grass, whether it was country when we first invented it, whether it was rock. When we were young, we were making music about the things that we were interested in. And as young human beings, what we're interested in? The same thing every young multicellular and single cellular organism is interested in when they appear in this three-dimensional space. Sex. Sex is a fundamental activity that makes sure that our lineages continue on. We demonize sex and the activity of the mating dance to the point to where, we shun it, because these man-made religions that we've created, right, has made it so we look down upon any activity involving sex or the display of wanting and desiring sex. We make the most fundamental and most special activity that human beings practice, right? And we make it inherently evil. So any mention, talk about it, or celebration of it is looked as low vibrational. But in actuality, having sex, or the idea of sex, or celebrating sexual readiness and sexual desireness, or celebrating the activity and the desire to want to do that with the opposite sex, That's the most natural thing you can do. And we shouldn't shun our youth for doing the same thing that we did. Now they're growing up with different technologies and different kind of music and in a different era. And they're just expressing the same young, testosterone filled, estrogen filled enthusiasm as we did when we was young. And so we got to let them go through the cycle. It's a cycle that everybody gets to go through, and we can't be hypocrites and say that their music is trashier than ours and that they're highlighting that when we for sure back in our day was highlighting those musics. And there are songs that we highlight as classics right now that we don't even really listen to the words, because if you listen to the words, they're saying some of the same what you consider raunchy and lowbrow stuff in jazz, right? Sometimes in blues, but on a darker level, right? And in neo soul and R&B. I mean, just because you change the beat to a softer, more pleasant, more conservative beat doesn't change the meaning of the words, right? Making love music is making love music, whether you want to go fast or slow. So I just think that sometimes we as a people can be completely and totally hypocritical when it comes to judging our children and their musical preferences, and what the industry, who is basing their award system off of what's popular in the media. And the song is out there, it's popular. You a Diddy bottom your head to it. How many people are really listening to the words anyway? It's not like she's a lyricist. It's supposed to be a good time vibe feeling. It's not to be taken seriously. And I just feel like people are taking this more seriously than it should be taken, when there are other serious matters at hand that we should be taking care of. If we as a generation, as a millennials or whatever we consider ourselves, and Generation X, if we think that, if we feel like that we can just sit there and judge and judge the previous generation, the generation that's coming under us for their music choices, if we think that we can sit there and judge like we are holier than thou, then we are completely and totally delusional, because they are a carbon copy of us. They just have more technology and more ability to spread their young, youthful, degenerate music and more than we had, because we had CDs and tapes and stuff. They have the internet and they're streaming. It's just a different avenue, and I believe that we should be a little light when it comes to the judgment of that type of music. That's all I'm saying. I hear you, but at the same time, it's still derogatory, right? And just because, our generation made that type of, trashy music doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean, because my generation dehumanized themselves, because my generation promoted degeneracy, because my generation promoted drugs, promoted promiscuity, promoted having sex without being married, because my community did that, it's okay that our children are doing that now. It's okay that we allow the white power structure to use the trauma and the bad things within our community wrapped around having a good time in order to continue to make money. Well, who's really making money off all this black exploitation, this black exploitation 2.0? It's the white folk. It's the man in the suit making all the money. And as a matter of fact, it's the white man in the suit that's printing out the lyrics for these desperate individuals to rap and sing so they can get paid. Because we know they're nothing but rich slaves. Just like NFL and NBA players, they're rich slaves and they have slave masters. And all these artists are also slaves. All right, slaves there were people who were good at the guitar back in the day, and they were slaves, and their only job was to play that guitar to entertain people. All right, there are people who can play the flute and various other different instruments, and they were slaves, but their job was just to make music to make people merry. All right, so these entertainers who are being used as slaves, who are also being used as African American leaders. All right, so keep in mind, white people pick from the same group of people to pick our leaders and our entertainment, and they're the ones who print out the words that are said and disseminated through our music, right? And they also pick out the words that our entertainment say to us when it comes to political and social issues. These are slaves being used to manipulate black people, and the degenerate music is part of it. And it doesn't matter that our past generations was making degenerate music. They were making the same mistakes, right? Because they were being controlled by the same people. So what we need to do is break the cycle and do something different. There's plenty of different music that African Americans can celebrate. We can celebrate sex and celebrate love making in various different ways without disrespecting ourselves, without exposing our women's bodies as if seeing a naked black woman is supposed to be the standard thing to do. Seeing a black naked woman is something that a man should earn. You understand? Unless they're at the beach. All right, and they can see them in their bikini. The very few times you're at the beach, or you're at the pool, or you're at a fashion show, and you get to see, a little bit of black skin. For the most part, that should be covered up and earned by people who deserve to see, God's perfect creation, which is that black woman. You understand? Right? So we got to stop doing it. We also got to stop deifying these rappers who are not, they're not, just because They're memorizing words and patterns on a piece of paper and rapping it doesn't make them our political leaders. It doesn't make them our Swiss Army knife of social commentary, political and political leaders and thought leaders in our community. We got to stop letting black people who make trash music, who's supposed to stay in the trash section, be influential members of our community. And we got to put the pressure on our artists to have some sort of integrity and make actual good music for the people. There was a time when music was supposed to be meant to uplift the people. Black music is supposed to uplift and help people elevate. It ain't supposed to be a perpetual goddamn party at the strip club party. Is that the best we can do? When we have all these beautiful young black women with all this talent, they out here making beautiful music, making beautiful poetry, right? Out here rapping with bars, yet we don't promote that. We promote some non-lyricists making trash crap music that was printed out by some white Jewish goddamn executive, white man in the yarmulke, who owns that industry, who says, go sell the shittiest and most disgusting part of your communities, and I'll give you $1 million on loan for it. And then we're going to go ahead and reinforce it by giving them some goddamn awards and shit. That's my problem. So, yes, I understand that, every generation has made this kind of music, and it's just young people celebrating the idea of having sex and wanting to commingle with each other in the party atmosphere is what young people do. But at the same, there's an appropriate way to do this. And there's a better way and a more responsible way and a more African-centered way of doing it, and not a European-centric way of doing it, and just blatant disrespect and uncouth and unsexy depictions of our women for those savage barbarians who we know what they're into anyway. You understand? So that's all I'm saying. I understand that we have, generational music that risque, but at the same time, at some point it has to stop, and we have to do better, especially since we know that we can do better. We don't have an excuse. It's just us. We right now it's just us we can blame. We can't blame the white man, because white man is only being able to do what we allow them to do to us at this point. That's all I'm saying. I mean, okay, so I get it. I get what you're saying. I do understand that. I do understand that we have to respect ourselves more. We do have somewhat of power to control what comes out. But that also requires, it's easy for you to say, right? When you got an 18-year-old who ain't never had no money, right? And then you get some executive, they offer him $50,000, $60,000 to read this little script to a beat. What you gonna do? Most people would take it, right? And that's pretty much what's happening. You get people that got somewhat of an aesthetic look. You get a woman that got the aesthetic look, right? If she can hold a tone and hold an upbeat, they will industry plant her. We have plenty of industry plants, and most of them are industry plants. We gotta admit, most of the music nowadays are industry plants, and they're not coming up through the old system of just being organically popular and having people enjoy their music. The radio stations are purposely pumping their music, so all this stuff is commercially manufactured anyway. I do understand that. And we taking that in consideration. Our children who don't know no better, because it's not like we sitting there teaching them, right? So for all the judgment that we have for these youth, who from my generation, what artists from my generation are teaching these young ones to have integrity and how to get into the game and be successful without selling their soul? How many artists of my generation, right, is mentoring these younger artists, right, to make sure that they come up the game and they have integrity intact? How many of these artists, right, because keep in mind, most of the artists from my generation are still trying to be relevant right now, and they're competing with the younger generation. So they don't want to teach the generation, because the younger generation is their competition, because a lot of these older, my generation, they still want to be in the game. We do know that some of this is a young man's game, right, a young woman's game. And we got some that still want to compete. And while they're competing, they're not mentoring. So there's no succession of mentors of artists like there used to be, right? A person who used to play a guitar used to, after them having their years of being famous, they usually came to the point to where teaching other pupils in order to come up and play the guitar so they can go off and be famous, and they'll be the teacher, right? Right? And vocalists who know how to sing properly and know how to manipulate their voice, at some point, they will become teachers and teach those who have that talent to utilize the gifts that they were given, right? And the problem, we don't have that, because instead of the teacher being a teacher, the teacher instead of being a teacher, they're competing with the student. And then they complain that the student don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, when the person that should have been giving the pieces to the puzzle decided not to give them the pieces to the puzzle. You can't be mad when they don't got the full picture when you hold a goddamn handful of pieces in your hand. So yeah, I get it. But like I said, we still cannot judge them as harshly as we are doing, because all I have to do is play 3 songs and it will shut my entire generation up. Huh? Girl, you look good. Won't you back that ass up? You a big fine woman. Won't you back that ass up? Girl, who's you playing with? Back that ass up. That one song, that one video is more raunchy than any video these young ones coming out. You want to talk about gangster and promoting degeneracy in the community? Huh? How about this? Nuck if you buck. Nuck if you buck. Wide up. Come on. Okay. Yeah, all I got to do, once you hear that song, once you hear the beat, that's it. It reminds you of who you used to be before you got old and started working and having responsibility. Y'all forgot. Y'all forgot them MC Hammer music videos, huh? Huh? Y'all forgot that. Y'all forgot the videos we used to make back in the day when we was just having a good time. We was just fun. We was just relieving our stress. It's just the weekend. Leave us alone. We was saying the same things to our parents while they was listening to Teddy Pendergrass and Al Green and all them, right? Who used to wear suits when they was standing up singing their songs for 12 minutes, right? So we just can't be so judgmental. We got to let these young ones do what they're going to do. I understand that we have morally matured now, but at the same time, everybody doing it. You think that these other races don't got degenerate music that they make, from their group? They do. It's just not popular because our music is popular. It just so happens that everybody listens to our shit. You don't think that Mexican music ain't degenerate gang culture music that disrespects their women? All that music is. Just because it, you think just because it sound like that, they ain't saying the same gangster shit. Mexican music is gangster as hell, even though it doesn't sound because you don't speak the language. You think these European songs, even though I know y'all don't know none of them European songs, right? Have you ever listened to the lyrics of it, what they saying? Have you listened to any of the country music song lyrics of what they saying? They're saying the same degenerate shit our hip hop and the rap and R&B artists are saying. It's just not as popular as when we do, right? So we kind of hold ourselves to account, and we not listening to all that crap, so we don't even realize that literally everybody's saying the same. I want to do this to you. This woman is going to take this money from this dude, blah, 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 young, dumb, and full of cum stuff. So like I said, it's a waste. To me, I think like it's a waste of energy to pour on this. I think that we should, as artists, right? If you are an artist, a music artist, if you're a rapper, a singer, or anything like that, instead of criticizing the youth for doing what they can do within this era, right? I think it's the responsibility on these artists to try to mentor these artists and try to have them at least pivot, right? I understand getting your money. Go get your money, right? But there's a point in time where it's time to pivot, and there should be lines that we as black people should not cross, right? And we've been crossing lines that we shouldn't cross for a very long time, to the point to where it's normal now, right? So we got to do some soul searching as a community and try to reevaluate as a community what's socially acceptable for black folks. What is acceptable for us? And we have to enforce that with our dollars. We have to enforce that with our money. We have to enforce that with our voices as well, right? But in a responsible way, and we have to speak, right, to our youth as the generational parents that we are, and we can't just keep judging these children for doing what children do. Right? And I'm saying children in general, as I'm a part of an older generation, and there's a generation who's older than me that even though I'm a full-grown ass 43-year-old adult, they look at me as a child, because I will always be a child, even no matter how old I get, to the generations that were before me. And therefore, all the generations that are after me, I look at them as children, even though some of them are in fact adults, right? So, I mean, that's all I got to say about it. I do respect your opinion, Afro Think Tank, about, more conservative view on it. But at the same time, I think my more progressive view on the situation is live and let live, and just try to guide these people, try to guide them into making music that will last generations, that, your grandchildren will hear one day and be like, that's my song. Because right now, most of the music, even though it's real trashy and it has no soul, no heart, no lyrics to it, most of this music, as good as it was for that 3 minutes or that 2 minutes you listen to it, it's totally forgettable 5 minutes later. And it's not, a lot of the music being made now will not stand the test of time, right? And we need to get back to making music that stands the test of time. So it's part of my dissemination, in this argument. That's all I really got to say about it. All right, you made some good points. Okay. All right, you made some very good points, because when you played, when we made me go back in time, I remember who I used to be. Right, I remember young, dumb, and full of cum and testosterone as a young child, you know. Just like, hey, you know, all animals, you know, they explore when their little things start tingling, you know, so they want to express. It's just natural. It's natural. Yes, but at the same time, I still, you know, believe we should protect our community. And you're definitely right about how our generation are supposed to be the responsible ones to teach the next generation and to mentor the next generation. So you're right. We cannot blame our children for doing what children are going to do, especially when there's no adults around. And I'm speaking in general, as you know, as different age groups in a set of 10 years. You got your 70s babies. We got the 60s babies, 70s babies, 80s babies, 90s babies, and the 2000 babies right now. And we got our 2010 babies right now, which is still like, it's 2026. Good God, right? But anyway, they're about to have another generation. I don't know what it's called, right? But I think we all collectively, and here's the thing, all of our generations are still alive and kicking right now. All right, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010. We are all alive, and most of us are adults, and we still have the ability to mentor these children and the ones who are going to be artists, the ones who are aspiring artists, and we can still change it. I just think that we can celebrate, you know, our sexual prowess, celebrate the activity of sex, celebrate fertility, celebrate the coming together of men and women, celebrate youthfulness in a more responsible, respectful way. And I think we can find a middle ground, but we definitely got to do something about it. But we can't forget that, you know, I gotta admit, crime mob, when that crime mob saying came out, you couldn't tell me nothing. I might have been sticking my head out of a Ford or a Chevy, the back seat, with tinted windows going down Union Street or Anacostia, screaming at some ladies with a bottle in my hand at some point. It might have went down that way. When that song come out, ready to just nuck if I bucked. If you bucked, I was ready to nuck. So I mean that is true. You did throw that back in my face. So I feel like this was a productive conversation. Both of us got our viewpoints across, and we can agree to disagree on certain aspects, but I think we're both pretty much in the same lane. And I think we could definitely push this. I think this conversation definitely pushes it forward a little bit into a more advanced conversation of how we can criticize or how we can protect our youth from being taken advantage of those entities we know that took advantage of us, and how we can nurture them to be creative under their own guides, right? And not be susceptible to somebody printing out degenerate shit and put it in their face, right? We got to bring back talent. All right. And we got to watch out for industry plants, and we got to promote those who have true talent in really creating real artwork. And we got to point out, and we have to make being an industry plant not profitable. We have to I don't know how we're going to do that, right? Because by the time they become industry plants, they don't already got a couple mil, probably on loan. But we have to start pointing them out and be like, look, like Milli Vanilli, right? We got to hear you sing for real. We're not trying to hear that dub shit. All right, let's see what you got for real. Let's see what the real talent is, and then let's promote you or not based off that. And that's how it should work. Anyway, productive conversation. Hey, you guys, tell me what you guys think in the comments section about this complex conversation that that we are having right now about our youth, and the next generation will be having the generation right now that's babies. All right, when they become adults, they'll be talking about how the children they have music ain't shit. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn some something. I'm out.
I'm with the niggas tonight, and it feels alright. I'm with the niggas tonight, and it feels alright. I'm with the niggas tonight, and it feels alright. I'm with the niggas tonight, and it feels alright.
Free Sudan, boycott diamonds and gold. Free Sudan, boycott diamonds and gold. We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.